Cross-listing or merging courses in Canvas. If you have multiple sections of the same course in the same semester, it is possible to request that the Canvas shells associated with these courses be merged together so that the enrollments from all of the sections are placed into one master section, so that you only have one Canvas shell to manage during the course of the term. Getting this done is very simple. All you have to do is go to the Help button in Canvas in the Global Access menu, the gray bar on the left, and either use the chat or telephone faculty support that you'll find there to request the merges. Canvas support will perform the merges for you, and they'll be finished by the time you end the support interaction. So that's no big deal. But what do you do once you've got your merged master shell? Now, there are considerations you need to make, and there are capabilities that you have that you'll want to be aware of. We'll start here by looking at the People tool, which will give us a window into what's happened here. This is one of two sections, nominally of the same subject, that's been merged. And when this is done, the students from the different CRNs, the different actual course sections in PeopleSoft, are all placed into the same master course, but they are placed into separate virtual sections within the course. This is about the only place where we use these virtual sections in Canvas, and they are automatically created for you during the merge. So I have 4 students and myself here as the teacher in the roster here. And the first 2 test students, were originally in the shell that was merged as the master, and the other 2 were originally enrolled in the shell that was merged in as the child or subordinate section. But they all now have access to this Canvas shell. So you only have to manage one Canvas shell for the 2 course sections. There are privacy considerations that you need to consider. FERPA, the Federal Rights and Privacy Act for students, dictates that students in separate course sections can't know which students are enrolled in the other section, and they can't have any direct interaction with them in order to maintain the dictates of FERPA. So how do you manage that here? Well, the first thing you can do is ensure that these students are restricted from directly interacting with one another in Canvas. And this probably will be the case, but you need to check it. For instance, let's pull up a student here. We'll check a student's ability to interact with students in other sections, or virtual sections in this case, within the same Canvas course shell, by clicking on the name of the student in the People tool, and then clicking on the name of the student again to bring up the Student Details page, and scroll to the bottom, and under Privileges, near the bottom of this Student Detail page, we see an option to limit this user to only see fellow section users. And we're told that this user can view students in any course section. That's not what we want. We need to change that if you see this. Indeed, you may see this set already to the user cannot view students in other sections. But if that is not the case, if you see what I'm seeing here, you need to click this link that will ensure that this user can only view students in their assigned course section. And this has to be done. If you need to do this, you'll need to do this student by student in order to ensure that there's no direct interaction. But there are other places where students might interact that you need to be aware of and need to take care of. Much of that you can deal with in the Settings link in your course menu under Course Details. If you scroll to the bottom of the Course Details page and click More Options, you'll see a series of options that you'll need to adjust to preserve privacy. For one thing, you do not want to let students create discussion topics. Otherwise, all students within the course shell will be able to interact with those student-created discussions. You do not want to let students organize their own groups. Same thing, they'll all be able to see one another in those groups. You also want to hide sections on the People page from students. And disable comments on announcements, because those can be seen by everyone in the course, regardless of the virtual section that they're in. So those options need to be set just so to minimize the possibility of direct student contact. Okay, so what now can you do? And what capabilities do you have to interact with these students separately where necessary? For starters, if you create modules, all students will be able to see everything that's in a module, or at least be able to see the links in the modules, regardless of the virtual section in which they're enrolled, regardless of which course they were originally, which CRN they were originally enrolled in. So that's something to keep in mind. But let's say you want to communicate with your students safely and privately. In some cases, you'll want to communicate with everyone, all of the students in all of the virtual sections simultaneously. At other times, you will want perhaps to be able to communicate just with the students in a particular section. And you have both of those capabilities in Canvas. For instance, you can make announcements, and when you create an announcement, you have a Post To option here, which allows you to post this announcement to all sections, or only to one or the other or another of the virtual sections within the course. You want to make sure Allow Users to Comment is turned off, however, because if a user in one virtual section comments on an announcement that you've sent to everyone in the other section virtual section will also be able to see it. So it's critical that this option is not checked. Allow users to comment. Not especially useful anyway. So you can send announcements to all virtual sections or only to one. You can also, in using the Inbox tool, the messaging tool, when you send messages, and select recipients, you have the option to select all students, if you wish, or students in any of the sections. If you do select multiple students that are in different virtual sections, be sure that when you send the message, you click this option here that says Send an Individual Message to Each Recipient. This will ensure that no student knows who else received this message. It's basically a blind carbon copy type situation. So then that would allow you to safely send the same message to all students, regardless of their virtual section. You can, if you wish, send a message only to a particular section, virtual section. So you have control over your messaging process. You can also, in the realm of communication, create discussion topics that are limited. Well, you don't want to create a discussion topic that's accessible to all sections, because the students then will be able to interact with one another and will see one another in there. But you can set up discussions so that they are limited to one or the other of the virtual sections in your course. You can also do something similar with course homework assignments. When you create a homework assignment, you have this Assign To block at the bottom of the assignment creation screen. And by default, assignments are assigned to everyone, but you can take that out and you can limit assignments to individual virtual course sections, if that's appropriate. But it's perfectly fine to assign it to everyone as well, since the students won't be interacting through the assignment, unless you pick peer review. Should you be using peer review, ensure that peer reviews are assigned within virtual sections rather than across them. You can do the same thing with quizzes. When you create a quiz, you have that same Assign To block, and you can assign quizzes to individual virtual sections or to everyone. I mentioned earlier that content modules are visible to everyone, and there's no way in Canvas to limit access to a course module by virtual section. It just doesn't have that capability. An oversight on their part, and it's been a requested feature for years, but they've not yet implemented it. So, what do we do if there's content that we want to share with the students in one virtual section and not in another? There are scenarios where that might arise. Usually that's not the case. Usually you want everybody in the course shell to be able to see the same content. But there may be section-specific content that you want to share. You can't do that through a course module, but you can do it in a workaround by using student groups. You can go to the People link and to your Groups tab, and you can create what's called a group set, which is a series of groups assigned to different groups of students. So, our group set name might be something like Content Group. You don't want to automatically assign students to groups, so we'll just leave this at I'll create groups later. And save. All right, here are our 4 students. Test student 1 and 2 are in one virtual section, 3 and 4 are in the other. So the first thing I'll need to do here is create a group for each section set here. I'll just call this Content Group Master and save that. And then I'll make another group within the group set. I'll call it Content Group Child for the other virtual section. I can now, knowing which students are in which virtual section, I can add them to the appropriate group just by clicking and dragging their names there. I just open the group and drag the students over. That's how I can manually assort the students between different student groups within a group set. So I now have some capabilities that I didn't have before. Each of these groups has its own homepage, Canvas homepage, that is subordinate to the main pages in your Canvas course. And you, as the instructor, can visit this group homepage for each group. This is what it looks like. We have a minimal course menu here. And these are tools that the students within the group can use, but you can use them as well. And note that the student group has its own Pages tool and its own People tool and its own Files tool. All right, so it's quite possible for you or the students themselves to create content pages that are visible only to the students in this virtual section or in this student group, which is congruent with one of your virtual sections. Do the same with files. You can upload files, or they can upload files to a file manager here that is visible only to the members of this group. So this is where you would put pages and files that need to be accessible only to one or the other or another of the virtual sections in your merged course. This is a bit of an awkward workaround, but it does work. The students can access these group home pages through the groups link will be present in their global access menu. And those are some of the things you'll want to know about your merged courses.